To pull off a 104-match tournament across an entire continent in just 39 days requires extreme, precise logistics. Traveling thousands of miles between distinct climate zones challenges standard footballing logic. What starts as a test of skill often turns into a contest of physical endurance. If you look at the crowds reacting to England moving into the round of 16, you'd think the heavy favorites were cruising. But the final scorelines for England, the USA, and Belgium hide how close these matches actually were, and the specific structural issues that nearly cost them the win. The question to answer right now is whether these teams advanced because their systems actually worked, or if flawed tactics were simply bailed out by individual star talent. This chart maps the tournament's reality. The horizontal axis tracks the environment, from favorable to extreme climates. The vertical axis measures tactical setups, from rigid to adaptable. We plot England, the USA, Belgium, and Mexico as our baseline. Teams falling into this bottom right quadrant face unique challenges in the knockout rounds. Stripping away the celebration reveals a tournament where standard possession systems are struggling. Survival now depends on how a team manages its tactical setup against the environment. Look at Thomas Tuchel's starting setup for England against DR Congo in Atlanta. This tactical pitch map shows England starting 4-2-3-1 formation. Tuchel deployed Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson in a double-six pivot to control the midfield. But that attempt hit a wall. The passing lanes choked in the midfield, unable to penetrate the final third. Because the structure was so stiff, they were left vulnerable to Congo's counterattacking pace. That lack of mobility is exactly how they fell into an early 1-0 deficit. By the 60th minute, Tuchel had to abandon his structure. He threw on more direct wingers like Anthony Gordon out of necessity. To make this work, Harry Kane adjusted. He started dropping into a deeper playmaking role, chasing the game to drag Congolese defenders out of their organized lines. But when your center forward drops deep, it leaves a vacuum in the penalty box. Filling that gap requires sustained physical effort from the midfield. Jude Bellingham took on that physical load, making 40-yard sprints from deep over and over again to capitalize on the space Kane created. England's initial tactics proved to be a liability. To move on, they were forced to rely on late-game transitions and high physical exertion. The U.S. men's national team faced a different kind of stress test after Folarin Balogun was sent off early against Bosnia and Herzegovina. This tactical map shows the adjustment. After the red card, the USA shifted down into a compact, reactive 4-4-1 low block. Center-backs Chris Richards and Tim Ream absorbed the pressure, neutralizing Bosnia's attempts to progress through the middle. Sitting in a low block requires a trade-off. The U.S. had to sacrifice almost all of its offensive transition threat. Winning from that posture required a low-probability, high-skill event, which they got with Tillman's free kick. But banking on dead ball goals is difficult to sustain against top-tier opponents in the later rounds of a tournament. The USA proved they can endure defensive warfare, but until they show repeatable offensive patterns in open play, their ability to progress remains limited. Beyond tactics and red cards, teams are hitting an environmental wall, starting with the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. This chart compares cardiovascular recovery at sea level against playing 2,200 meters up. Executing a mid-block in thin air carries a toll. Ecuador's pressing structure collapsed due to rapid oxygen depletion by the 47th minute. Moving north to Austin, Texas, the threat shifts from thin air to extreme summer heat. In high humidity, the explosive bursts required by modern tactics cause a player's core temperature to spike significantly, affecting their ability to recover between sprints. Norway understood this extreme threat so well that they rested stars Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard in their final group match. They accepted a 4-1 defeat to France to prioritize their physical recovery for the knockout stages. The environment across North America actively challenges high possession and high press systems. Success now requires managing player energy as much as managing the ball. This scorecard maps the advancing teams against the requirements of the round of 16. It grades them across 4 columns: starting tactics, bench impact, defensive resilience, and environmental readiness. Applying this to England, we have to look at how their habits match up against their upcoming game in Mexico City. Relying on late-game, high-energy attacking surges to bail out a stagnant midfield is a difficult strategy in the thin air of the Azteca. Harry Kane just moved past Pelé in the all-time World Cup scoring charts, but those individual milestones are being weighed against the physiological limits of the players around him. Shifting the scorecard to the U.S. men's national team, they face a different test against Belgium. The USA's defensive metrics and disciplined low block match up well against a structured Belgium side. However, to advance, the Americans have to find a way to create goals in open play, rather than banking on individual set-piece moments. Belgium themselves are recovering from a match where they required a 3-2 extra-time comeback against Senegal to survive. If you want to predict who actually wins the 2026 World Cup, look beyond the starting lineups. Start looking at the 60th minute substitutions and the stadium elevation.